Now, let's try again. Objective 31. We are going to graph and write linear equations in point-slope form. So far, you have learned slope-intercept form. What's slope-intercept form? Y equals mx plus b. What's good about it? You can tell you the slope, and it can tell you where it crosses the y-axis. You have also learned standard form. What's standard form? Ax plus by equals c. Don't forget you have two no-nos. No fractions and no negative a's. What's good about it? It's really easy to find. No. When you're looking at it, none of those numbers, the A, the B, the C, none of those mean anything. But it's really easy to find your x and y intercepts by simply plugging in 0. Remember, you plug in 0 for one, solve for the other. And we figured, hey, when you plug in 0, that goes poof. And then it's really easy to solve. Does that make sense? It's a quick way to find your x and y intercepts. Now, if you would rather, can you rearrange it back to mx plus b and graph it or look at it in your calculator and find your x and y intercepts that way? Okay? And then today we're going to learn point-slope form. What do you think is good about point-slope form? It gives you a point on the line, and then it also gives you slope. And so if you know a point, can you plot that point? And then from there, can you count rise and run for a slope and make a line? Could you graph it and find your x and y intercepts that way too? Yes? Could you graph it and you got your slope, and if you can figure out where it crosses the y-axis, could you plug the m and the b and write an equation for mx plus b with the picture? You can do lots of stuff with it. Again, each particular form has a good part about it, but you don't necessarily have to use that form. But it's good because the more forms you know and the more ways you know how to do it, the better you're going to be at the whole topic. Okay, so here is point-slope form. It looks like this. Y minus y sub 1, you might want to write this down, equals m times the quantity of x minus x sub 1. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x sub 1. Okay? Do you know any parts up there? Do you know what m is? Okay, so m is your slope, and your x sub 1 and your y sub 1 is a point on the line. So you will be plugging in numbers here, here, and here. What do this x and this y, what do you do with those? What do you do with, no? You're just going to leave them, because what are they? They're the points on the line. Those are your answers. Those are your solution. Those are the points. You agree this has a line to it. If you take a point and you plug the x in here and you plug the y in there and you work the two sides out, the two sides will be balanced. So these will stay x and y. The green x and y will stay x and y. Those will be your solutions or your answers. Okay? And then you're going to plug in the point you know here and here, and then you're going to plug in the slope there. Okay? Any questions on that? All right. Oops. Let's go back. Example 1. And what do we need? Anybody have a pencil and a piece of paper for AJ? Thank you. All right, go ahead and copy this down. All right, write the equation with the slope of -3 that passes through the point. So here is my Blue's Clues example. So when you get to the test tomorrow, you got to look at what you've been given. And so tell me, what have I been given? -1. So I've been given a point, and I've been given the slope. So here we go again, and I go, point, slope, point, slope, point, slope. Oh, so we're going to use the point slope form because I've been given a point in the slope. Does that make sense? Yeah. I mean, you know how some things, like the names of some things in certain classes or definitions, they don't make sense. Like the definition doesn't really match the name because you don't really think they go together. Does that make sense? This is not one of those things. It's called point slope form because you use a point and the slope. So, y minus y sub 1 equals m times quantity of x minus x sub 1. Okay? So, we're going to plug in y minus the y equals m times the quantity of x minus the x coordinate. So, y minus y sub 1, which one's the y? Yes. What's common mistake here? People put -1. Why? Because it's the first thing you see, and you think plugging the first thing you see in for the first thing that you see. Does that make sense? And it's not like that. You make sure your first point is your x, and your second point is your y. Make sure the y gets plugged in there. Okay? Then we will plug in m, which is -3 times quantity of x minus -1. Do you see anything? Double negative. Okay, so let's clean it up. So y minus 7 equals -3 times quantity of x plus 1. Now, you are done. This is now in point slope form. Okay? So your answer on the test may be in point slope form. And so here's us being cautious, careful, and conscientious again. If the question says, write the answer in point slope form, then we are done, because that is in point slope form, okay? If the question says, write it in standard form, would you know how to get it to standard form? Can you do that? What do you do first? You distribute -3 times x and -3 times 1, and then you bring your x over and you get it in ax plus by equals c. What if your answers are in y equals mx plus b form? Then you just put it in y equals mx plus b. You put it in point slope-intercept form. You go to whatever form your answer's in. What if it doesn't tell you and your answers are multiple choice? Well, look at your answers and see what form they're in. If they're in y equals mx plus b, then you go to y equals mx plus b. If they're in ax plus by equals c, then you go to ax plus by equals c. If they're in this form, then you go to this form. Gotcha. No, I mean, like, they'll probably all be in the same form, but sometimes they're in y equals mx plus b, sometimes they're in ax plus by equals c, and sometimes they're in this form. Okay, most of the time, what form would they be in? Y equals mx plus b. That's your most popular, okay? So you are finished. Now, can I ask you a question? Look really carefully. What does it look like your point is? It looks like it's a +1, and it looks like it's a -7. So just realize in a minute, if it looks like it's +1 and -7, the actual point is -1 and +7. Why is that? Because it has the subtraction signs. It makes it look the opposite. Okay? We are going to look at this in a graph in just a minute. Okay? All right. So let's keep going to this. What have I been given? I've been given a point, and I've been given slope. So here we go again. Everybody says, I don't know which one to use. Well, look at what you've been given. Point, slope, point, slope, point, slope. Oh, we're going to go to the point slope. And I don't mean to be sarcastic about that, but that just seems to be like in the end, everybody goes, I don't know which form. We know so many formulas. I don't know which formula to use. So, here we go. Y minus what? Negative 8. And again, why does it have two subtractions? This one comes from the formula, and this one comes from the point. Yeah, the coordinate. Okay, so we'll fix that in a minute. Equals what? 2/5 times the quantity of x, 10. Okay, and then from there, all we got to do is clean it up. Y plus 8 equals 2/5 times x minus 10. Okay, and again, the directions on your homework might say plug it in here, and then the directions say, I think, and I've got them listed for you, like what to do, but I think some say write the point slope form. What's the point slope form? That form, this form, okay? So that's your first 4. 5 through 8 says write the slope intercept form. So you do this first, then you take it and you rearrange it to y equals mx plus b, slope intercept, okay? And then the next set says write it in standard. So you do this first, and then you rearrange it to ax plus by equals c. Don't forget about your 2 no-nos, no fractions, no negative a's. Do you need to see me rearrange any of them? Yes? No. You're okay. You sure? If it wanted you to rearrange them, do you need to see that? Can you rearrange to y equals? Can you which one do you want to see? Y equals or ax plus by equals c? Which one do you want? Y equals. Okay, so if it says, because again, for the problem, one says leave it like this, the next 4 problems said rearrange to y equals, and then the next form says rearrange to standard. Okay, so always distribute first. 2/5 times x is 2/5 x, and 2/5 times negative 10 is, I'll help you out, negative 4. Am I right on that? You might want to check me. You got calculators, put it in. Parentheses, 2 divided by 5. Okay, so now we're going to go to y equals. So, Levi, what should I do to go to y equals? Move the 8 over. Very good. And it becomes negative. So y equals 2/5 x minus, what do you do with negative 4 and negative 8? Negative 12. And there you're done. Ba-boom. Okay? Any questions on that? And again, you only do that if the directions say take it to slope intercept. Slope and y-intercept. That's mx plus b. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay? Why don't you try this one on your own real quick? Put it in point slope form. Point slope form. I highly recommend you write the formula down. You will not have this formula on the SOL. So the more times you write this formula, the more times you will remember it. Okay? Anybody want to try me out with it? What did Jonathan get?
Y plus 3 equals 1 times the quantity of minus 3.
X minus 3. 1 times the quantity of, and I'm glad you said times the quantity of x minus 3. I agree. What is 1 times the quantity of x minus 3? So could I just say x minus 3? Yeah. Would it be okay if you put the parentheses and put the 1 on the outside? That'd be fine too. But probably you would see this. Okay, so that is point slope form. Now, what if I said rearrange it to standard form? Take a minute and rearrange this to standard form. Those leaving can go ahead and come get your homework. This part is homework, okay, and I'm going to finish recording. You know how to do all the way through 12 right now. I'm going to go over how to do these bottom ones. And the coloring sheet's extra credit, just in case you want it. And I'll take the coloring sheet by Friday. Okay, let me get y'all some holes. Please check back with me later today to see if your test is tomorrow or not. Okay? Depends on how far we get.
Are we going now?
Yes, y'all can go. Alright. Yes, take your stuff with you. You probably won't be back here. Alright. Here we go. Anybody want to try me out? You want to do it? What'd you get? Okay, so talk me through it. What's the first? Where am I going, first of all? Right, and I'm going to AX plus BY equals C, because that's standard. Okay, is everybody going to the right place? Yeah. Okay, so we are going to move our X over. What happens, Taylor, when you move it over? It becomes a negative X. Okay, now what? Yes. If you look at it, is the X first? Check, check. Is the Y next? Check, check. Is the equals next? Uh-oh, this is not. So where does this go? This should go, and it's going to become a negative. So negative X plus Y equals negative 6. Am I finished?
No.
No. What do you got to do? You can divide by negative 1 on every term, or you can change the sign, and change the sign. Okay, how many got it? Good. Okay, so again, are you okay? Sometimes the questions say you got to read your directions. Okay, sometimes the directions say leave it in point slope, so you would leave it just like that. Then sometimes the directions say go to Y equals, and you do that like we did on the other one. And then sometimes they would say go to standard, which is what we did right here. Okay, just follow what the directions say. All right. What we're going to do right now is we're going to graph. Do y'all need graph paper? Yes. Just kidding. Who wants to tell me what the slope is? Somebody that hadn't talked to me today. Bradley. 1/2. Very good. Now, can you plot the slope of 1/2 right now?
No.
No, you can't. That's not your starting point. But can we find a point? And remember, a coordinate point has an x, comma, y. So, who can give me the point? Shamar. He thinks -2, -5. What does Dylan think? +2, +5. Let's think about this. Here's the formula. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times quantity of x minus x sub 1. So, again, the minus is part of the formula. So, what does that mean the actual point is? Positive. Does that make sense? Okay. Does that make sense, though? So, and what did I tell you a minute ago? It was going to look backwards. Okay? So, again, you have to be very cautious, careful, conscientious, because what do most people do? They put the negatives, because the way it looks, and then what else do? They put 5, comma 2 first, right? Does that make sense? Because they put what comes first. Make sure you realize that the 2 comes first, it's your x, and then the 5 comes second, and it's opposite signs. So it's backwards and it's opposite signs from what it looks like. Okay? So, can we plot this point? Do we know where that is?
Yes.
Where is 2, 5? Up 2 and over 5. Agreed? No, that's slope. Remember, slope rises and runs, but when you name points, we don't need the comments. When you name points, you go down the runway and then into the air. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So from there, we've got a slope of, where am I traveling? Now you can travel rise over run. Up 1 over 2. Up 1 over 2. Or you can go down 1 and left 2. Down 1 and left 2. So there's your line. Let me ask you, from here, can anyone tell me, there's lots of things you can do from the pictures. Can anyone tell me what the equation is in mx plus b? Y equals, just by the graph, y equals, you know the slope? 1/2 x, y plus 4.
Yeah.
It's 4 on the y. Ooh! What else, what else algebraically could you have done with this up here? You could have taken this and rearranged it. Would you have still gotten this?
Yeah.
Can someone tell me the x-intercept and the y-intercept? Well, what are you doing? I haven't graphed the x-intercept, agreed? We haven't graphed it yet, but what could you do?
Keep going.
Just keep going. Down 1, left 2. Down 1, left 2. Down 1, Cheney's good. She said, it is negative. These are 10 by 10s. So if this is 10, -8. So she's good. So what would we say the x-intercept is? You could say, how would I write it? How would I write the x-intercept? There's 2 ways to write it. X equals -8, and what's the other way? -8, comma 0. Because remember, we plug in zeros. What is our y-intercept? What's one way to write the y-intercept? Y equals 4, and what's another way to write it? 0 up 4. Either one would work. But do you see what I'm saying? By the picture, you can do a lot. You can tell me x and y intercepts. You can tell me slope. You could go to the equation. Can I plug directly? Now, we went directly to this by the picture. Can I go directly to standard by the picture?
No.
No, why? Because the A and the B and the C don't mean squat. Can I say that?
Yeah.
They don't mean anything. But, so how do you get to standard? You'd have to go to one of these 2 forms and then do what? Rearrange it. Okay, that's the only way to get standard. But from the picture, you can tell me lots of different things. Okay? All right. Example 5. What form is it in? Point and slope. So, can you tell me, who can tell me the slope? JT, what's the slope? 1. Very good. There is a 1 right there. Okay, and so what direction should our line be going in? Why that away? Because it's positive. You know, on your slope quiz, you know what disappointed me? A lot of you had like positive lines, and you told me the slope was negative. You said it's -4. Or you had negative lines, and you told me the slope was, please make sure it like corresponds. Okay, and that again, I wouldn't fuss if I thought that was the best you could give me. You know what I mean? Cautious, careful, conscientious. Take your time. Use your brains. Think. So, tell me the point. Somebody that has not talked to me today. Sean.
-3.
Very good. What did I say? First of all, it's backwards. Instead of saying 5, 3, you're going to say 3, 5. But it's also opposite signs. And again, the formula says x minus, what would the point have to be the positive?
Negative.
It'd have to be a negative, so you'd have a double negative to make the positive. Does that make sense? So, where do I plot my point? What direction? Left 3, go down the runway. 3, 4, 5, and then into the air. Okay? From there, where am I going to travel with a slope of 1? Up 1 and over 1. Up 1 and over 1. Up 1 and over 1. And there's your line. Here we go again. Shazam! What's the equation in slope-intercept form? X. I agree. Hold on, let Jake finish. Y equals X plus 8. Boom. Okay? What else could you do to get to that? You could take this and rearrange it. And again, if you move -5 over and you add 3 and 5, don't you get 8? Okay, so you can do it algebraically. How many would rather just rearrange the equation? How many like drawing the picture and looking at it and telling? And so again, when you go to your SOL, and I wish you good luck, I'm going to say graph it out, graph it out, graph it out, graph it out. Because if you will draw it, it's so much easier. Could you find your x-intercept? We know the y-intercept is 8. How would I find the x-intercept? Keep going. What's x-intercept? 8, -8. Does that make sense? So the y-intercept is +8, the x-intercept is -8. Because the formula says, it says if you have y minus 5 equals 1 times quantity of x plus 3. The formula says y minus y sub 1 equals m times quantity of x minus x sub 1. Well, here's the thing. This is part of the formula, right? So that means the y is positive because the negative belongs to the formula. If the formula said negative, what did x have to be in order to make that positive? The x had to have been negative to do a double negative to make the positive. So again, the negative, that negative becomes out of the formula, but the point had to be negative. So it's always opposite from what you think. Okay? All right, you try this one. Graph it for me. What direction should your line be going in? Down. Why down, Levi? Because it's a negative slope. going wrong with your slope? Point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And down 2. I think it should be here. The starting point. I think you went -8. Yeah, it's a 6. And I think you did backwards with your slope. You went over and down, over 1 and down. Does that make sense? You need to go down 1. Remember, you get in an elevator and go down 1 and then over 4. All right, let's go through this real quick. Okay, first of all, what's the point? -6, -2. Anybody have questions on that? Okay, so where do I go for -6, -2? Go down the runway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then down 2. Negative and negative. There's your starting point. Any questions on that? How many already messed up the starting point? Are you okay? Questions? You with me? Got it. Okay. And then your slope is -1/4. Where does the negative go? Does it go with both? No, it goes in the top or the bottom, but not both. It can't be in both because then it would be a positive. Okay, so again, here's now you can get in your elevator, press the button, -1. We're going down 1. And then +4 would tell you to go to the right 4. Down 1, right 4. Down 1, right 4. And so there should be your line. Anybody mix up the slope and go in the wrong direction? Everybody okay with what I did? Cautious, careful, conscientious. Okay, almost finished. Last part, okay? And this is going to be the bottom of your worksheet today. Now I'm going to give you 2 points. Now, no, you don't need to do this on graph paper, okay? And the question says, now you got to pay attention to the question. It says, write the answer in slope, intercept form. So, I'm not sure if it was this class or my second block, or maybe even my third block that talked about this, but you know, I'm going to go back to our CSI, NCIS. Is it on NCIS, the crazy girl with crazy hair? And then don't they always like take all the clues and all the stuff to her and they dump it out on her desk and then she has to figure out like what all it is, right? Does that make sense? So I want you to think of being her. What's her character's name? Abby. Yes, I like her. So here's your clues. 2, 4, and -3, 9. Now, we want to get to slope-intercept form. Where are we headed? If this is, we want to get to slope-intercept form, and we're writing the equation. What's the slope-intercept equation? Where are we heading? Y equals mx plus b. So there's our goal. But here's the thing. You're not going to be able to go, bam, bam, you're done. You got to take our clues. Now, let's just start from the get-go, okay? Even if you don't know what you can do, what can we find with 2 points? Name one thing we can find with 2 points. Can we find slope? Oh, okay. So we may or may not need that, but probably we will need that, right? Because isn't that a piece of it?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So let's go to slope. So slope is, how do I find slope from 2 points, by the way? Y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Okay, fill in our negatives. What am I going to plug in? 9 minus 4, y minus y, -3 minus 2. Okay, so 9 minus 4 is 5, -3 minus 2 is -5. Don't forget to reduce. Some of you forgot to reduce your slopes. Woo! What is our slope? -1. Okay, so now I can say m is -1. So now again, okay, we're smart like Abby because she's brilliant, right? I mean, she like puts all kinds of crazy stuff together. If you've never seen this, it's pretty cool though. Anyway, so now let's look at what we got. Tell me out loud. What do we have? We have, what are these? Points. Say it again. One more time. What do you think we're going to use?
Point slope form.
Oh, does that make sense? Now the question is, we're going to go to point slope form. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times quantity of x minus x sub 1. Is anybody like kind of thinking some like thought here? Generally, how many points do we plug in? Just 1 point, an x and a y, right? Well, how many points do I have? I've got 2 points. 1 point here, an x and a y. 1 point there, x and a y. I got 2 points. Woo! I only need 1. Which one do I use? It don't matter. When you rearrange it, it will rearrange and still be the same thing once we get to the end. Does that make sense? Which amazes me how you can plug in 2 different things and then bam, they're the same. But it does. It does. So which one do you want? 2, 4. Okay. So let's take 2, 4. So what will I have? Y minus 4 equals, do we know the slope?
Yeah.
Negative 1 times quantity of x,
Minus.
2. Okay. Now, I've got it into an equation. I want to go to here, though. So what do I do with it?
Rearrange it.
I just got to rearrange it. So y minus 4, always distribute first. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. Negative 1 times negative 2 is, how do I solve for y equals? Just move the negative 4 over and add 4. So what's my equation? Y equals negative x plus 6. So, again, you just got to start taking your clues and say, oh, we started with, what can you find from there? Oh, we can find slope. So that's what we did. And then from there we said, okay, now what do we got? Point slope. Oh, we're going to go to point slope. It does not matter which one you use. And then from there you rearrange it. Okay? No, you don't have to do anything. You can use this point or this point. Either one. Well, you used it to help you find the slope. Now watch this. Do y'all believe me that if I plug in this point instead, what if I wanted that point? Do y'all believe me that it'd be the same?
Yes.
Do you want to see it real quick? Can I do it real quick?
Yes.
Just so you can see. What if I didn't use that point? If I use the other one, it'd be y minus 9 equals negative 1 times x plus 3, right? So y minus 9, negative 1x is negative 1x. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. And then when I move this over and add 9, y equals negative 1x plus 6. Oh, it's the same thing. I have a hard time wrapping my head around that I can plug in 2 different points, but somehow when I rearrange them, they both come out to be the,
Same.
that just, it blows my mind. Anybody else have that thought? You're just like, whatever. Okay. Here we go. So there's your 3 steps. What's your comment? Any point that is on the line. It's got to be part of that line. Does that make sense? It's got to be one of the solutions. So that was a great question. Tommy said, can we plug in any point and it'll give it to you? Any point that is on the line. So could, again, what if you didn't want to rearrange it? Could you graph it and then find your y-intercept and your slope and give me the equation? What? Graphing? Really? Yeah. Yeah, and you can. I agree. In the end, I think graphing it makes more, like, graph your 2 points, find your slope, extend your line, and then you can get to y equals mx plus b. I'm with you. Okay? But here, algebraically, are your 3 steps. Find your slope, plug into point slope, then rearrange. What if they said rearrange to ax plus by equals c? Would you be okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it'll be one or the other. Okay? All right. I think this will be the last one. You try this. And maybe take a minute and graph the 2 points and see if you can get it. Maybe take a minute and graph the 2 points and see if you can write it in y equals mx plus b. Look at it visually. You need one more, 2 more? Okay. All right, let's look real quick. I'm not sure when they're going to call you down, so I want to make sure I have time to explain the homework. How many did it graphically? So I had a couple. Was it pretty simple? You just graph the 2 points, and if you know the slope, huh? I agree. So watch this. Where do you graph? You go 0, up 2, right? And then you go over 1 and 1, 5, up 5. So, first of all, do you know the b? What's the b? 2. What's your slope? 1, 2, 3, and over 1? Agreed? So what's the slope? 3. So what's the equation? Y equals... Oh, and I kind of agree with Cheney. Hey, that was pretty simple, right? We just counted slope, and we already knew the y-intercept. There it is. Bob, huh? You could, and on the SOL, you could if you don't like it. Now, how many like the formula and like the steps, and I like to follow? So, here we go. First of all, you would do 5 minus 2 and 1 minus 0. So it'd be 3 over 1, which is 3. Okay. Then you know point slope. Point slope. Which point do you use? It don't matter. Which one do you want to use? 1, 5? It don't matter. You can use the other one. So y minus 5 equals 3, the slope, times x minus 1. So then we rearrange it, distribute it. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. And then we move the 5 over, so y equals 3x plus 2. Isn't that the same thing that we got by graphing it a minute ago? Okay. So either way would work. All right. Let's talk through